We should play Toomba. Why don't we play Toomba?
I'm down.
Is Toomba time?
Is that their motto? Is that their catchphrase?
That's ours now. I'm going to replace every bit of our podcast with It's Toomba time.
It's Toomba time.
Welcome to an evening with two gamers.
Is this the new intro?
I guess. I don't know.
In a world where there's only two gamers, you're going to spend the evening with two of them, which is also
talk
all
about
of
some
them.
games that you may have. That's also all of them. We're going to talk about some games that you probably heard of before. What's my game makeup today? I've got some good stuff for you, actually. This is going to be a fun one.
Gamer makeup.
I've put my gamer makeup on and now I'm ready to game. But this is like our mentions of gamers per minute is so high already. I have to slow it down a little bit.
I bet gamer makeup has been done before. I bet someone's like, hold on, I can't game yet. I need to put my makeup on.
I hope that's a thing. That would honestly be pretty sick. If anybody ever said that to me, I would think that they're the coolest person I've ever met.
Yeah. I would think like at least a Twitch streamer.
Yeah, that is true. I want it to be for them though. Like with Twitch streaming, it's like for an audience. I want somebody to be like, I can't focus right now.
Like you're talking to the homies on like Discord when you're playing a game.
Yeah.
Someone's like, wait, I got to put my makeup on, guys. I'm not feeling.
Yeah.
I'm not slaying enough right now.
Yeah, I mean, like it'll give you confidence if you're like putting on a look, you know. So I get it.
I gotta be slaying internally to slay externally.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely.
That's just life. That's just a life lesson right there.
That's just life. Hey, it's Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase, and I'm no longer blighted. I'm just regular now. Praise be to Dayquil, got me through.
And I'm David, and I am still not blighted. I'll let you know if I'm ever blighted again.
How are your ears doing this week? That was a point of excitement last week.
Ears doing good. Still better.
That's great. I love that.
On the up and up.
Healing. The hearing world.
Healing ear.
Have you been playing games, David?
Yeah, still pretty much just Legend of Zelda.
Tell me about your experience with it in the last week or so.
I have beaten the Fire Temple, and I've now gone to the Lightning Temple, which is cool. I don't know if there's ever been a Lightning Temple before, which is fun. I like that the energy of the Lightning Temple is scary but cool.
You get the, is it the Spirit Temple in N64 in Ocarina in the desert? Because you have like the Gerudo Temple in Ocarina, but it's not a lightning temple, which you're right is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got all my homies with me now. I got a squad. I got a squad of champions. Well, not champions, sages, I should say. And it's pretty fun to have a bunch of friends coming around ganging up on these bokoblins with me.
I feel like it's rare that a Zelda game executes on that. Like I feel like oftentimes there is a message in Zelda games of like needing the support of either like sages or friends or like partners a lot of the time, but you rarely feel it as acutely as you do in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, it's usually like, oh, I got this item that represents our connection, our friendship, and now I can open this door. Something like that.
I got a cool pin to put on my backpack that reminds me that Raru is my friend.
All it says is Raru and you forever.
It's just a handwritten note that he gave you. I don't know. I'm your sage now, dude. I don't know.
So yeah, it's fun that you're getting that more visceral connection to these characters through that. They're not there in body, but they are quite there in spirit, which is fun.
Yeah. Plus, Tulin is so good at shooting an arrow.
Dude, Tulin has saved my ass a number of times.
Yeah.
With just a well-timed headshot.
It's wild whenever he really lets him off. Because the other people are definitely fighting, but Tulin is back there like cooking up something dangerous.
I feel like he's probably the most useful of them.
Yeah.
Because he mostly just kind of does his own thing, and then when you use him to get around places better, like through gliding and his special power, it's so good, so much better. I rely heavily on Tulin for most of this game, but yeah, I'm enjoying the Gerudo Desert. I feel like it's always such a intimidating place to go because I think the thing that intimidates me the most about it is that when the temperature goes up, taking off all your clothes doesn't do anything for you. You have to be wearing a specific type of very breathable clothing to survive in the desert. And for some reason, that's scarier to me than going into the mountains without the right gear. I feel like I can always like try to warm myself up with like some chili peppers.
Yeah, sure.
But going into the desert without the right gear you're asking for trouble. At that point, even if you got splash fruits and hydromelons, who knows?
Sure.
Who knows how far you're going to make it before you start seeing mirages. And I'm enjoying the Gibdos, just because Gibdo is such a funny name.
Very good name.
Little scary skeleton people, and putting their bones on my weapons, even though they break like immediately. They're good for like a poke, and that's it.
They are. They also give you a lot of them. So like it's not the worst thing in the world to just like throw a couple of Gibdo bones on it and be like, well, that's fine.
I also really enjoyed the little strategy component of defending Gerudo Town from the Gibdos.
Yeah, that was cool. I liked that section.
Yeah, that was interesting. I don't think I remember something like that in a Zelda game before, where you plan out your defenses.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Zelda RTS incoming? Who knows? So that was a good time. And surprisingly engaging even when you're doing it. I'm like, this is going to be kind of gimmicky. But no, I was running around all over the place to save folks, and I think it was well balanced because like they got to what's the lady's name? Ryuji?
Ruji. Riju.
Yeah, they got to Ruji a couple times, but I was able to beat them back.
Yeah.
So it felt compelling, and like the stakes were there, but still doable. So it felt like it was just, I don't know, very well balanced in that section, which I appreciated.
Yeah, totally.
And now I'm in the temple. In the temple, I haven't gone too far in it. It is a vibe. It feels like I'm in a pyramid, essentially. It feels very pyramid-y to me.
Yeah.
So curious to see what goes on there. But man, the boss fight, like, to get into the temple.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That was great. I was like, ooh, I don't do this usually. Kicked my ass quite a few times. I have not upgraded my armor at all, so I'm just going around.
You should do that.
Yeah, I have not found this traveling troupe that people talk about. I'll stumble upon them probably after I've beaten Ganondorf. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Probably.
But no, the game's still great. I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, let's do the main quest and get through this. All the other stuff I can come back to, because there are just other things I want to start playing coming up in the future. There's a lot of things happening. Yeah, there's a lot of things coming out. I also beat the Lies of P demo. I hadn't beaten it before.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, this game is very Bloodborne. Even more so than like, I think I got through the first little mini boss the last time I talked about it. But then it got to the part where there's the lady in the window talking to you. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is like very Bloodborne. Still very fun. I don't know if it's, and then I think I was like you last week. I was thinking about it a lot. Like, is it like a homage? Is it a ripoff?
Yeah.
I think it's too hard. I don't think you can call it a ripoff because it's so well crafted.
Yeah.
It is very much an homage, and I think that they do enough different with the actual combat itself where it doesn't really play like Bloodborne, at least not the way that I really played Bloodborne.
Sure.
Some of the same mechanics, but you can't just step dodge around like a madman like I was in Bloodborne, which is what I did. You really have to kind of stay there and take a hit and just time it perfectly, more like a Sekiro, and then you have that added mechanic of getting back your health by hitting your enemy again.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm still looking forward to playing it. We'll see what the reviews are like when it comes out, but I think it's interesting. I think it's a well crafted. I don't even think you can call it a Soulsborne like, but a Born like, more like
a blood like.
A blood like. So yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes.
I'm with you.
I also played another demo.
Yeah,
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R.
Damn, what a swerve.
The demo.
Is this a new game?
I don't know if it's a new game. I just looked it up online and it says it came out in 2013.
How are you playing the demo? This is like a demo disc that you plugged into your PlayStation 3?
I'm actually playing this on my PS3 that I just brought home.
Yeah. So there is a remaster that was released September of last year for the Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox.
So that's what I've been playing.
Yeah. How is this game? Are you a JoJo head, just for record's sake?
I would not say I'm like a huge JoJo head. I did watch the first 3 seasons of the show.
Yeah.
I know there's like 4 or 5 seasons out now.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get into, I think, the 4th season as much as the first three.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I know a lot of the characters in it. Some of them I do, some of them I do not. Really all you have to know is Dio. So yeah, it's fun. It captures the insanity of the anime quite nicely. Yeah. And it really gives me a lot of Budokai vibes, like Budokai 1 vibes. Just with the way that the UI of the menus and the music in the background and just like the opening cinematic, it's like this very joyous celebration of this show, which is very fun.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So it's just fun to jump into and play as your favorite characters, at least the couple that they let you play as in the demo for a 10-year-old game that I'm playing. So yeah, I've never played this one before, and it's fun. I got my ass handed to me by Dio.
Sure.
Don't bring a Hemon user to a stand user fight is pretty much what all the JoJo heads out there will understand what I'm saying. I guess I am a JoJo head. Shit.
Yeah, you did throw out some stances just now.
But it has an interesting fighting system too. You can definitely like power up and get stronger, but in the JoJo world, there are different styles or ways of fighting. You can use like your like breathing energy, or you can use essentially like a familiar to fight. And each one of those gets their special moves, and each character definitely plays differently and like how they are in the anime.
Sure.
And it's just a lot of fun. It's wacky, it's colorful, it's a joyous game. And I don't know if people who have not watched or enjoyed this show or manga would appreciate it, but I have, and it's great. It's great fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like fighting games are so uniquely good at letting you like enjoy the big moments in an anime. I guess like I'm specifically talking about like show and anime, where like a fight is the big point of the show.
Because it's like, okay, 1v1, let's go. Let's do this.
Some fighting games really deliver on that promise too.
Absolutely. They aren't all created equal, that's for sure. But what was it, Budokai 1, where they let you go through the different alternate storylines, or
that was pretty great.
The what ifs essentially of Dragon Ball Z.
And even fighting games that don't have an IP attached to them sometimes work for that too. I'm thinking specifically of like some of the Soul Calibur games where like the story is a big part of it, which is cool. I like that a lot. I like when a fighting game, and Mortal Kombat too. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in a Mortal Kombat game lore wise.
There's a lot going. There's so much going on that they decided to restart the whole thing. Like, this shit doesn't make sense anymore. Let's do it. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And that's about it. That's all I've been playing.
Sweet.
What about you, Chase? What have you been playing?
I've been playing a lot of games. I will eventually talk about Final Fantasy 16. I have been playing it. There's a lot in there. I feel like I'm not ready to talk about it quite yet because I just haven't gotten enough of the video game.
Sure.
That's, I think, saying something because I've played a significant amount of it already. But I really I think this is mostly coming from the fact that I've seen reviews where people say that it got kind of worse towards the end of the game. And I'm waiting for that to happen. I'm wondering if I have gotten there yet and I just haven't clocked that this is what people think is bad, or if it truly is bad and I'm just not there yet. So
is it like a big mechanical shift or a tonal shift? What are people saying?
My understanding is a writing shift, that it gets a little bit worse as far as writing. And I think what they're saying is that the writing goes from like what feels like pretty grounded stuff is happening in the beginning of the game to like kind of a magical wizard is the bad guy. I don't know what that means. Like contextually, I mean, that's very Final Fantasy, I feel like. So
I mean, that's also very Game of Thrones. Like the Night King is a magical wizard.
Yeah.
He's an ice wizard.
Sure.
Zombie man.
It makes sense. Like Final Fantasy 7 does that too, where the Midgar section is so like a look at the brutal effects of capitalism and how things can go so wrong there when you are just like mindlessly gathering resources from the earth. And like that is still a part of the story, but it very quickly turns into like Sephiroth is bad and you got to go fight him and shit like that. I know it's more nuanced and like Shinra plays a part in the story after that, but still, I think like not outside of the realm of possibility. But sure. Still, like I said, I want to get a little bit farther into it before I like say definitively what's really going on there. But I will say I'm like a little cooler than I was after I played the demo. I think I was pretty hot on it after the demo.
Yeah.
And I think it's like come back down a little bit, but it's still like a very, very good game. Overall, I think like the combat's amazing. The cutscenes are just fucking crazy. It feels like it's longer periods of kind of like vibe areas where you're going in and just kind of like feeling out the area, maybe doing a side quest and like getting some story, and then like just the coolest fucking boss fight you've ever seen. Like Azura's Wrath level of nuts going on in these cutscenes or fights sometimes. It's so good. So yeah, like I said, I'll talk more on it a little bit later, but I'm enjoying it right now. The 3 games that I do want to actually talk about, the first of which is Pikmin 1, David.
Pikmin Uno?
Pikmin Uno.
Whoa.
The first of the picks.
Where are you even playing this? Did they have it on the Switch?
They just put out like a re-release of 1 and 2 on the Switch, preempting the release of 4.
Gotcha.
And I haven't played this game since it came out. I played it on release in the GameCube days, and I remember liking it, but I really haven't returned to this series at all.
Sure.
And so I was like, yeah, man, I'll play Pikmin 1. That sounds cool. And it's fun. For anybody who hasn't played this game, essentially Pikmin is like Nintendo's take on kind of a strategy game in a strange way.
Mm-hmm.
You play as this dude Olimar, who you may know from any Smash Brothers, and he like crash lands on Earth, and he's like an inch tall, and he shows up and he's very, very small, and he shows up and he has to fix his ship. You are missing 30 parts of your ship, and you have 30 like in-game days to do that. And there's like, I think 4 areas initially that you can go to get these parts. And the way that you collect them is initially you find what he calls an onion. It's a place where Pikmin come out of, these little like weird little guys. And initially you have access.
Weird little guys again.
Weird little guys.
Chase is on a kick.
Initially you have access to the red weird little guys, and you can use them to like fight the local creatures. You can use them to move things. So you, like your ship parts all kind of blew up into weird spots. And so you have to go find them and collect them. And anytime you like beat an enemy or find like these little power-ups, you have to tell the Pikmin like, hey, go carry this back to your own little ship and it will spawn more Pikmin. And so there's like almost an RTS level of strategy going on. It's very simplified, right? Like this isn't StarCraft, but an RTS level of strategy where you are trying to figure out like, how do I optimize the amount of Pikmin that I'm carrying around? How do I get them from place to place? You can like throw them a lot of the time. So if you're on like a ledge that you have a hard time getting up to, then maybe you can figure out like, okay, how do we get these guys over here? Or how do I cross this water without hurting them? Because most of them can't swim other than the blue ones. Yeah. Or, you know, there's a bunch of enemies in our way. What do we do with this? And like, how do we beat those guys? So yeah, it also runs on this like in-game clock. I don't know exactly how long it is, but you know, imagine 5 or 10 minutes for a level. And once that is done, you have to go back to your ship, collect all your Pikmin, and you go up in the sky and a day ends. And then, yeah, that's the end of a day. If any of your Pikmin are like around, they'll get left behind, which is like such a blow whenever that happens. I feel terrible.
Because don't you see them like run to the ship as you blast off into space? They
almost all make it, and then they're like, "Wait, no!" And then they get attacked by like monsters. I have to skip. Yeah, I skip that cutscene very regularly because I can't do it.
Oh man, permadeath thing.
Yeah. Honestly, yes. Like essentially what's going on is you have to like manage your numbers of Pikmin really closely, because if you get down too low, it becomes really challenging to like fight anybody or collect anything. So there's been a couple of in-game days where I'm like, I just need to like go find enough power-ups to get more Pikmin, or go fight enough guys to like gather enough to up my numbers, because they do get pretty low. The other day I had like a day where I totally blew it and left like 50 Pikmin on the planet.
50 buddies?
Which it sucked. It was horrible.
Oh,
I just like mismanaged my time to the point where I had left them like all the way on the other side of the map. And you don't even need to like put them back in their home. They just have to be following you to not leave them behind. God, I totally fucked it up. So that was quite a blow.
The monsters were looking at you blasting off into space and like, all right.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Jesus.
It was, it was a bummer, but I'm having a good time with this. It's really strange to play through this game. I think because I don't usually think about this as like Nintendo's bread and butter, you know? It feels kind of like a secondary or tertiary series that they've been pushing, but they're like, this was a really good game and I'm really enjoying it. I think the balance that they hit of making the game simple enough of like, I need 30 parts and I've got 30 days. That's compelling to me. I get it. I can at a glance see I've got 5 parts and 20 days left. I need to up my parts per day, you know?
The Ding Boy doesn't even need a list for this one. He just has it internally inside of him. 30 and 30? Okay, I got you.
I know what to do, which is really good. I think that I've played the rest of the Pikmin and I don't remember them, and I could be wrong. I'm planning on playing the other 2 after this, but I don't remember them being as like simple as that story-wise, which is something that I'm enjoying right now. It is drawing me along to know the amount of time that I have left and what I have to do with that time. I remember totally fucking this up as a kid as well. Like, just like ran out of time, couldn't get the parts, and like didn't make it.
Yeah, time management is not the greatest skill of a child, right?
Absolutely not. Yeah. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's a very Nintendo game. Specifically, it feels like a very Miyamoto game. Like you hear all those stories about him talking about like, yeah, I went into my backyard and like went into this like forest behind my backyard, which is what like Zelda is based on, right? Like these little adventures that he would have. And Pikmin feels really similar, where it is asking you to consider and appreciate like exceptionally small animals and creatures.
Yeah.
In a way that feels very Miyamoto. Like it's just so focused on the small scale, and like tiny things mean big things in this game. Like a little stone is a big problem for you to deal with.
It's true.
And so I feel like in a very Nintendo way, it is asking you to consider your perspective in a way that's like very cool and kind, I guess. Like it feels like kind to the world that it's inhabiting, which I really appreciate. It's really cool and fun to exist there. The game is also like fucking hard. So it's not all like sunshine and rainbows over there. Whenever I like roll up on some dude and like are fighting them the wrong way, it is just such a problem. Like if I lose like 30 Pikmin in a go, I'm like devastated that has happened. Like it took me so long to get those numbers. Like I can't believe that we have to go figure out another way to do this now.
Just got routed in the battle.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's always kind of a challenge, but I think mostly for good. I think it is the same sort of feeling that I get in Fire Emblem, where I just have a hard time losing any of those people. And with Fire Emblem, like there's a pretty straightforward path where you don't have to lose people in a game. But in Pikmin, that's part of the game is you will lose Pikmin at certain points, and you will totally fuck up a certain route and kill 20 of them accidentally.
Nature's unforgiving.
Nature is unforgiving, and like it's a bit of a bummer, right? Because I think just, you know, as a kid who was always bummed out when people were like, "Oh, there's a spider in the corner, we need to kill it." I'm always like, "Oh man, I don't know if we want to do that. Like, can't we just let him like stay there, or at least put him outside or something?" Like, it is challenging to just have all your Pikmin like get burned in a fire or something like that.
How many ways have you seen your Pikmin die, Chase? Do you need to clear it with the Pikmin right now?
I know. Honestly, it's a lot of visceral stuff, which I think is part of the problem. It's they either like die in a fire or they like drown because they can't swim or something. God, some of the enemies though, they will just like stomp on like 10 Pikmin at a time, which is always so like just frustrating. I'm staring at my Switch, just like can't. So frustrating. Yeah, but I'm enjoying this game. Like I said, I think the most interesting thing about it is just the design philosophy behind it. And I don't know, I like Nintendo games often do this where they will bring a new edge to an already existing genre, and this is really their attempt at an RTS or like a strategy game.
Yeah.
And it's unlike any other strategy game that I've played, which is cool. Like that's a cool thing to exist. And so like I have to laud it for that at the very least. Also just shouts out to the design in this game. It's just like Windows XP core at the UI design level. Like just all these weird skeuomorphic designs, like all of the numbering systems, like they have this like kind of translucent glassy look to them all.
Oh, sure.
It's very bizarre, but like I very much appreciate it. It looks like a mid 2000s game in a way that isn't covered in zippers and new metal. It's cool.
Zippers.
Not that there's anything wrong with zippers and new metal. I like Nomura as much as anybody else, but still.
Don't get me wrong here. Don't get me wrong here.
I played the bouncer. I played Kingdom Hearts. I like all that shit too. But still, yeah, it's very fun. Looks like Windows XP or Windows Vista or something like that. It's great. It's fun. So yeah, I'm gonna keep playing that. I'm like on the last level as we speak, so I might check in again just kind of after I'm done to see what went on there. The next game that I am playing, or played, I should say, I guess, is this game called Novalands. David.
Oh, okay.
Novalands is a game that I had seen kind of showed off at some of the like not E3 coverage a couple of weeks ago. And I thought it was a game that was coming out much later, but it came out fairly recently. I think it's been in like early access for a little bit, but it was this game that was pitched as a automation game. So like a Factorio or Dyson Sphere program or Satisfactory.
We know how Chase feels about those.
Good is the answer. I feel good about those games. And so I was like, I'm interested already. But it's got this very different art style that is a lot more lo-fi, kind of looks like, a 16-bit game top-down level where you are controlling a pixely little character guy. And so that is new for me in this genre. Factorio has a design that looks a little grungy to me.
Grungy?
Yeah, it like everything looks kind of rusty in Factorio, and I think that's part of it. But I was interested in this art style because it is very much like more of a like not hi-fi, but more polished and glossy look than Factorio is bringing. And like Satisfactory is like kind of just looks like not photorealistic, but it is going after that look.
Factorio looks like a circuit board.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what the game does sometimes. It's very logic based and everything. So I was interested in Novalands, so I fired it up and promptly put a good number of hours into it.
What is a good number of hours, Chase?
About 12.
Solid.
So yeah, it's not, I feel like I'm pretty close to the end of the game, but I definitely just like floored it with playing this game. It's got that good ding boy dopamine rush where I've got 3 tools available to me, and one of the tools allows me to harvest resources, and if I unlock the next tool, it will allow me to do it faster. And so I need to do that.
Gotta be more efficient.
Gotta be more efficient. Essentially, the way the game plays out is you start off on this like middle island and you start like harvesting, I think it's like iron and sticks and stone and shit like that. And you can build furnaces to process the iron. And then once you have a certain number of iron bars, you can like build this thing that allows you to go to another island. That is, it's all like pre-programmed, like it's not random. And that island has different resources that you can collect, and that will unlock new stuff in your skill tree and your tech tree and all sorts of shit like that. Where I think this game does a couple of things new is that it is much simpler than the other automation games that are its contemporaries. Like with every one of those other factory games that I listed, Factorio, Dyson Sphere program, and Satisfactory. Yeah. With all of those, routing is a big thing that you have to manage. Like how your conveyor belts go from one area to another. Whereas this game simplifies that and does not ask you to do that. You just have like mover bots that you build that will, if anything needs a resource on the island, it will take it and put it there. So you don't have to deal with like the conveyor belt system that is in most of the other games. I usually like that in those games, but I agree that it's kind of an uphill battle the first time you learn that, or the first time you're learning that in one of those games. And so I really enjoy that they are taking a little bit of the edge off while still giving you the like satisfactory sense, like that sense of progression that the game gives you, and sort of the thrill of, building bigger and better stuff over the course of time, which is really, really great. I think that is a niche that is not filled. I think that these games can be not gatekept, but really hard to get into. It's a series or like a genre that I myself just didn't really think that I would be into until I actually got into Satisfactory and realized like, no, this is actually very fun, but it's hard initially. And so I think that this would serve as a really good first introduction to the automation genre.
Okay. Is that what it's called? The automation genre?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Which is cool. I think that having more people who have not yet played a game in that genre play that game is a good thing. It's a good thing to have more people playing your stuff because somebody probably likes it that hasn't played that game yet.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. I've seen people compare it to this game Forager, but that's not a game that I've played before, so I don't exactly know if that's like totally accurate. But from what I understand, Forager has that same like kind of tile-based unlocking of the map and a similar kind of arc. So I may check that one out too. But yeah, that's just something online. I've seen people say a lot about it. Yeah, like I said, it also doesn't force you to do the kind of like back of the napkin math that Satisfactory does. A lot of the times in this, and Dyson Sphere does this too, where you'll have an output of something and it's like, okay, I have 8 factories and they're all outputting 2 iron each, right? Every minute or so. How many of these other like bar smelters do I need to perfectly align the output with the input, right?
So you're telling me that these games are creating word problems for like elementary and middle school math teachers as we speak?
Kind of, honestly. Like if you have 10 iron ore extractors and they're extracting 30 ore per minute, but these iron smelters are burning through 10 ore every 10 seconds or something, like how many do you need or something like that?
What is
right?
X?
Yeah, what is X? Which like isn't, I have come to enjoy that stuff, but the larger your factory gets and the more in satisfactory you're talking about stuff like overclocking, or one part of your tech tree is moving much faster than another, so you have to like kind of compensate for that, or anything like that. Again, this game doesn't force you to do that. It's just like, yeah, you got iron bars coming out. Your little worker guys will handle it, which is all really good. I think all of that comes with a big bummer of a caveat, at least on Switch, is that I am much farther into the game. There are a lot of things on screen and my Switch is struggling to keep up. It
is burning up in your hands.
Mostly the frame rate has come down to just like a crawl most of the time. I don't know if that's something that they might fix pretty soon, because again, this is like it came out very recently, but like holy moly, once you get to the end game, it really slows down. I wonder if that's just like I've got stuff laying around and like that's slowing down. There's too many objects on the screen at once. But yeah, it's sort of a bummer. I wish I could sing sort of a more full-throated endorsement of this game. But if you're going to play it on Switch, it does come with the understanding of like once you get to the end game, it will be kind of slow.
Pushing the hardware.
This is also a PC game, so like if you are more interested in playing it and you have a PC, I think that might be the place to do it right now, just because you might have a stronger bit of hardware than a Switch. But yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer right now. I do hope that there's some kind of performance patch that like at least makes it a little bit easier. Like I said, like I'm playing the game in like what feels like half speed right now. It's pretty rough.
Chase is dying over here. Come on, Nintendo.
Please throw me a bone. I realize I played way more than you probably thought I would play in the first couple days, but still, I like the game a lot, and I would love to say like definitely check this one out. But and like I will say, like performance is not something that usually bothers me. There's been a lot of discussion with that around the Final Fantasy 16 game, and like I've been in performance mode and like there's some hiccups every now and then, but like God, it just doesn't bother me at all. Whereas this one is just like pretty rough.
How tragic. The Switch can play a game about optimization, but it cannot optimize itself.
It's true. Let me in there. Let me in the hardware. I'll put my worker bots on it, you guys. Yeah, I am really excited about the game. I think there should be more like it. I'm gonna check out Forager to see if that's maybe something similar. But yeah, I'm having a good time with it. Just be careful if you're going to buy it on Switch. It can be a little rough towards the end of it. Finally, David, the last game that I have played this week is this game called That Which Gave Chase.
Chase Allheart?
A little bias.
This is the greatest game I ever played.
This is better than anything ever. This is let's see. Do you have a guess, David?
It is, say the name again?
That Which Gave Chase.
I mean, my gut is that it's a deck building roguelike.
Close, but no cigar, David. It is a lo-fi horror game, my friend.
That's the second option.
Yeah, you're so close. So I think I saw this on Twitter. I think like Bryce Butcher or something had liked a tweet about this, and I was like, hey, that looks up my alley. Just came out. It is a game that is advertised as being able to be beatable in under an hour or so. It's like $5 on Steam, and it's a lo-fi horror game. So for maybe anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's just a game that kind of looks like a PlayStation 1 game that somebody has made recently with that design ideology on purpose, right?
Lots of polygons.
Looks kind of quote unquote bad, but as we have talked about before on the pod, I think there is a terror that PS1 can only communicate. Like the farther away you get from the metaphor of what you are trying to convey, the kind of more grotesque it becomes. Like if you were looking at Lara Croft, just at her whole person, she's kind of terrifying if you're comparing that to what you know to look like as a human. And like most of the time that's fine, because you are trying to interpret that game as she is a representation of a person versus like in something like Silent Hill, it is harder to interpret that sort of stuff. And so there's this gap that shows up between your expectation of reality and what's being conveyed in a way that is quite terrifying. It can be scary if used to good effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that this one does that. But to talk a little bit about like what this game is, it's this game where you are playing as this guy who is, what's it called? Like a sled driver. He's got like 4 dogs that are pulling his sled, and you're
so
the
he's in,
person
like Yukon, Alaska or something.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't mention specifically where this is, but you are like in a frozen tundra, essentially, just like a mountainous frozen area.
Mm-hmm.
And you are transporting this guy who only refers to you as a musher or a musher.
Musher.
It weirdly enough will come into play here in a second, but
okay.
And he's like, hey, I started this expedition when I was much younger, and I need you to finish the expedition with me, to take me through this wilderness, essentially. And the way that the game plays out is that honestly, a lot of it is you just riding in the dog sled, and you control the dogs, right? So you can turn them left, right. You can tilt your sled a little bit if you're kind of rolling over a little bit.
Sure.
And you're also bringing along this guy who's like talking to you most of the time. And every now and then he'll be like, hey, there's a cabin over there. We should go get out and look at it.
Sure.
This game really reminds me of Paratopic in moments, because it does the same thing that Paratopic does, where Paratopic is another lo-fi horror game. It does the same thing that Paratopic does, where it will snap between scenes immediately.
Yeah.
Like there's no loading scene. There's no like, hey, we're going to a new place now. It is just like you are immediately in a totally different location, which is like so good. I love that effect. You so rarely see that in video games, because oftentimes like the game has to like pull up a whole new level if it wants you to be somewhere else.
Yeah. It's disorienting.
Yeah, but it uses it to such good effect. It's in a similar way to Paratopic does, where you'll be like starting to open up into a cabin, and it cuts to like nighttime. You're walking, you're not on the sled anymore. You're trying to follow like the guy who you're hanging out with up this like dark mountain. You don't have a flashlight. You kind of catch up to him, and then it immediately snaps to another scene, which is great. And I guess just like spoiler warning, I'm going to talk about most of this game. If you're interested at all in what I've been talking about, definitely play it. It's only an hour. It's like $5. It's worth your money. But yeah, I'm going to talk about kind of what goes on through a fair bit of this game. Eventually, this guy starts talking to you and like, speaking more about what the game kind of is about, and mentions things, more like, you can't trust your senses out here, least of all your memories. People start to forget who they are in these places. And again, I think that's supported so much by these like cuts between these like story beats. It is very unclear what order they happen in, when they happened, if you are still playing the same character that you were just playing before.
Sure.
Anything like that. So I think that they use it to great effect in the game, and also it supports kind of the narrative that's going on of not being really clear about what is happening, why it's happening, or when is the thing that you're experiencing at that given moment. There's this story that kind of starts to come out about these deer and these mushrooms that are in the valley and on the mountain, where there are these deer that you see every now and then, and they like eat these kind of like mushrooms on the ground. And it's the guy keeps talking about like, well, on the first expedition, these deer always knew how to get back to their herd. Like we would try and do these like kind of fucked up experiments where we would like try and take away one of their senses to see if they could still make it back to the herd. Okay. And they always did. And so they were trying to hypothesize that like these mushrooms had something to do with it.
Expanding their minds.
Yeah, there's something going on there. And again, going back to you being called the musher, kind of foreshadows where the game starts to go. It's really, really great. I love that the story is just like so ethereal and experimental, and like, full disclosure, you're not going to have every answer that this game starts to ask you. By the end of it, it is another one of these lo-fi horror games that is comfortable with the unknown, with not having an answer to all the questions that it poses. Gotcha. So, if you need every loose end to be tied up, this one might not be for you. And you just played Paratopic, so kind of like what you're in for there. But I really like that. I like these games for like the experience that they give you, not necessarily the plot that happens, right? Gotcha. I think how these games say the things that they're saying is like one of the most important parts about it, rather than like, you know, the if you looked up on Wikipedia what went down, it's like, that's not really the same thing as playing it. Which is cool. I think it adds to the idea that like the game is creative and specific enough to give you a unique experience that can't be translated to just like written word, which is great. I really like that. It reminds me of a number of things. I think just like most obvious is which it's it's pretty Lovecraftian, right? You're heading out into the woods. There's no like Cthulhu that shows up or anything. But it is...
And then there was a Cthulhu.
But it is concerned with you slowly losing your grasp on reality, questioning in the game, and like your character is also questioning this, like what is happening? What are we doing? And also, where are we going? I think it does that both narratively and physically, just because you're jumping around so often that it's like, I don't know where I've come from in this scene. Like, where do I even need to be going? And eventually one of the narrative beats that happen is you realize that you can follow the deer a lot of the time if you're in like a bad situation, and they will oftentimes kind of like treat you as part of the herd and allow you to move on to another spot, which is really cool. Like really great that is one of the only ways to get through this place. It reminds me a little bit of Annihilation in the sense of you like going into this kind of like cursed space and trying to make your way out of it and figure out like who you are. And a lot of the times like that movie and book, and then this game too, is much more about like, what am I doing here? Who am I? What's happening? Who are these people that are with me? And like, what are they willing to do to get through this? It has a little bit of Uzumaki, the Junji Ito graphic novel. There's some time fuckery that eventually shows up. It's not like the most major part of the story, but it really reminded me of there was a passage in this game where they were mentioning about being safe from the harbors of time or something like this while you're in the valley. So like it could have been a long time since you've been here and you might not know, which is just, that's frightening unto itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think also this movie called Hour of the Wolf, I saw get mentioned a couple of places when people are talking about it online. It's this Ingmar Bergman movie.
Oh, I've heard that name.
I was like kind of familiar with him, but not like heavily. Essentially that movie shows this guy who like is suffering from can't sleep good disease. What is the word? Narcolepsy. He's having a bout of insomnia, essentially.
The Derek Zoolander school for people who can't sleep good.
Who can't sleep so good. He essentially is just like tortured by these like demons that are around him, essentially. And it's another story of losing your grasp on reality. And I think like visually, you can definitely see the inspiration there. This game isn't black and white, but like because you're in this frozen tundra, oftentimes the only colors you are seeing are like whites and grays. And so I think like visually you can definitely feel the influence there, which is great. That's like such a cool thing to pull from. Yeah. Anyway, I think just like at the end of the day here, I loved the way that this game played out because these horror games are just like fairly short. None of the mechanics really tire that much for me because I'm just so interested in what is happening that even if something initially I'm like, that doesn't control well, or like that bit didn't feel great, you're beyond it so quickly that it just doesn't really matter. And so it allows me to focus much more on the narrative of the game rather than just looking at the mechanical experience that I'm having with it.
Let's just go right on to the next thing.
Yeah, which I think is really cool. It's a thing that I like about the lo-fi genre quite a bit is that a lot of the times these experiences are as long as they need to be, which oftentimes is quite short, which is great. I think that's really, really good. I also just like love surrealism in video games. Like we were talking about Katamari Damacy last week, which is a very surrealist game. And I think a lot of the time surrealism is used as a form of comedy in games, but I think that you hear a lot about games that treat it as a horror element for good reason. Like I think Eternal Darkness, was that the game that we played?
Yeah, on the GameCube.
Yeah, where you're like losing. Yeah, you're kind of losing your grasp on reality of that one too. Also uses like surrealism. I think Metal Gear does pretty often, and I think to great effect. And so like I think games just sometimes get really bogged down with needing to represent something physically because like they're just so focused on the mechanics of something that. Yeah. Whenever somebody does focus on like, I'm going to make this a purposely confusing experience and disorienting experience. Initially, if you've only played Call of Duty, that might feel kind of like a bummer. But yeah, I think there's a lot of enjoyment there if you can kind of let the reins off and just like experience the emotion that a game is making you feel. And with this one, it was, unease, disorientation, the terror of being out in this cold wilderness for so long and by yourself, the loss of control over like time, and how this kind of just like the same vignettes keep popping up in the same locations, and you're just kind of unclear about like, how did I even get here? That people talk about when you leave work, you get in the car and then you kind of like are at your house and you're like, was I focused just now while I was driving? Like I was so in my own head that I don't remember any of that. Yeah. And like, I think that is these cuts between scenes are such a good representation of that, of like just having woken up somewhere and being like, what the fuck even did I do for the last half an hour? Mm-hmm. Which is, it can be a scary thing, right? Especially if you're in this terrifying situation that the main character is. Yeah. Which is great. And eventually you do end up, eating some mushrooms and doing some things. It's frightening.
Some mushies.
So I thought this game was really wonderful. This is right up my alley, so perhaps not surprising, but I thought it was great. I had a really good time.
Nice.
Also, if you're interested in this but don't want to play it necessarily, I checked out this guy's YouTube called CJU Games, and it's this dude who like I looked through his catalog and he seems to just play a shitload of indie games and is like so good at commentary. I feel like whenever I pull up just some random YouTube video, chances are I'm not going to like the person who is like commenting on it. They're just usually shouting and so loud and like they're not really allowing the game to breathe at all. Whereas like this dude is just kind of like a nice British man who's hanging out and like talking about the game, but never really, it gives the game the focus rather than like, what's up gamers? It's me, your boy again. Today we're going to play this lo-fi horror game and I'm going to shout at the screen for an hour or something, like he's much more focused and like is digesting the game as he's playing it, which I think is really great.
Is the YouTube voice the new transatlantic accent for the modern age?
Oh my God, that would be such a bummer.
There is a very specific cadence and tone to the YouTubers and influencers talking in their videos, right?
The rhythm of it is pretty specific. Yeah. Gosh, I hope not. Because then like that means in 100 years, like our great grandchildren will be like, man, don't you love that old YouTube accent? It's so classy. It's so classic.
So classic. Not classy, but classic. We'll say classic.
Turbo Video Game Podtimism is going to make an episode about it and do a YouTube voice for whatever game came out this year.
It's like Video Game Podtimism, but turbo.
This will all bring him to my Podtimistic thing of the week, David.
Which is?
People playing video games.
Damn.
And letting me watch them.
Oh, okay.
I think specifically. I enjoy watching people play video games on the internet. I think like perhaps given my age, I suspect that I am not the target demographic most of the time for the videos that are being made there. But like with CJU Games, every now and then you find somebody who's doing a really good job of it and highlighting games that I have never heard of but would like to play. Or say I want to check out a new game, but I don't quite want to buy it yet.
Sure.
Just let me flip through 10 minutes of somebody playing it. That'll really help me. Watching my wife play Super Mario Odyssey, a very fun experience for me. It's very cool to see somebody's brain kind of click along and the gears turn of like, wait, how do I do this? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Very satisfying experience for me. I really like doing that. Yeah. I like watching a video game be played, David. It's great.
No, it is fun. And I like it especially as well because with games nowadays, they're just so rich and so much detail in them that being able to watch, you really get a lot more of what is going on in the game itself as opposed to just like where the action is, which is all that my old man eyes can decipher nowadays. It's just what is going to kill me and hurt me. Like playing a Dark Souls game is much different than watching someone play a Dark Souls game.
Yeah, it's true. I kind of wonder sometimes if I watch an eye tracker of me playing a video game, sometimes I feel like I'm just staring dead center in the game and nowhere else. Like
absolutely, exactly right. Nothing. No, I don't want any of like what the art department has spent years crafting. Just give me the vital information to how to survive and win.
I know, it's such a bummer because sometimes I'll like stop in a video game and be like, good Lord, this location is amazing. And then just sprint through it and fight a fly on the other end of it and be like, all right, bye. And then just leave it forever.
I will never come back.
Yeah, it is a bit of a bummer in that way, but I agree. Anyway, David, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism?
Yeah, it's talking to people about games, IRL.
Oh, sure enough, yeah.
Yeah, I was at a party this last weekend, and we just started talking about games at the table. People were talking about Ratchet and Clank and how it made them be friends with their brother.
Wow.
Like their experience with it. It was great. I was like, damn, that's awesome. I just love hearing that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And so many people have these stories about games. It's just great to hear. It just fills me with a sense of podtimism that it's not just me who's had these great experiences beyond just like mechanically with a game, but with a person or, learning something about yourself through this beautiful medium. So that was awesome. I loved that.
Yeah, I agree. When we did our 100th episode, the one about meaningful games, I was like, way enthused to hear about people's like experiences with what games mean the most to them.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool. If anybody has those still, feel free to send them in. Like it was a very cool part of the show that I like hope isn't just restricted to episode 100 because there's some good shit in there.
Yeah, or any new listeners who want to send in what was meaningful to them. We just do that every once in a while. Just once we get a critical mass of them, just start throwing them out there.
That's true. Yeah, it was very cool. So I agree.
Good as hell.
Games can mean something, David.
No, Chase, they're just violence and the devil's way of getting to your children.
It's the devil's way. Look at this weird, spooky PlayStation 1 game that he's played. It's the devil.
It's the devil.
Although I bet if a like real old boomer played that which gave Chase, I think they might think it's the devil. I think there's a couple people that might come out of it thinking it's the devil.
Yeah, they wouldn't like it.
No.
There's a lot of games that the older generation would not like, but that's art, baby.
Yeah, that's art. That's true. Anyway, do you want to move on to our main thing, David?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Hey, it's Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. And got another listener suggested game this time. This one coming to us from Return Game Suggester, Karlf. We got some confirmation about how his name is said. Thank you for sending us that email. Quite a few months ago now, Karlf. I was sitting on it until now, so we could really get back here swinging with the correct pronunciation. Suggester of the Long Dark, now suggesting Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. David,
this was intense.
This was an intense one. Had you played this game before? Actually,
no. I had played Far Cry 3.
I
really enjoyed Far Cry 3. That was probably my favorite Far Cry.
It was the first time that it hit the formula that they've been doing ever since. And so I feel like it felt very novel at the time, and the game also was not super bloated yet. So yeah. I agree that I enjoyed that one. All the wild shit at Ubisoft that has come out since is troubling, but at least at the time I enjoyed that game. Far Cry 2 also good. I think at some point you should play Far Cry 2.
That's the one in Africa, right?
Yes, a really different game than any of the other Far Crys actually.
That was the first one where they made a big deal about the fire.
There was fire, a very emergent gameplay centered video game, which is very cool. You could
make fire, or an enemy could make fire, and it could turn into this raging brush fire in the desert. See, it seems interesting, and I mean, Far Cry 3 is, I think, really good. I would try Far Cry 2. Where can I even play it? Like Steam or something?
It is on Steam, directed by none other than Clint Hawking. Mr. Ludo Narrative Dissonance himself.
Oh, damn.
It was his blog post that made that. Anyway, we're off track. Let's center on Blood Dragon. I also had not played this game, which is surprising because I think like in 2013, I feel like this would have been kind of my shit. 10 years ago, I feel like I probably would have been into this. It would have felt very novel. Not that I wasn't here, but I think 23-year-old me would have been like, yeah, dude, lasers and guns.
Yeah, lasers and guns and irreverent humor.
And
here we
camp.
Go.
Yeah, exactly.
Camp. Yeah.
But before we get too far, David, can I hit you with some hot stats about this video game?
Please.
Cool.
Hot stats.
So this one came out May 1st of 2013 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Fear not, it would eventually come to Google Stadia July 7th of 2022.
Not the Stadia.
The Stadia finally got its hit. So this was made by Ubisoft Montreal, who you might know from Splinter Cell or Prince of Persia in the mid-aughts. Far Cry up until 2019, Assassin's Creed since 2007, and then Watch Dogs 1 and 2. So some of the bigger series, I feel like, from Ubisoft.
Absolutely.
Let's see. I do have a review of this game that I pulled from JoJo Video, an outlet out of France that had originally reviewed it in French. I have taken their review and I've run it through Google Translate a number of times, mangling it and fucking it up beyond recognition for a nice artist's interpretation, which I will now read for you, David.
I'm ready.
Montreal-based Ubisoft has a huge fan base full of original skins and codes that still make 80s dreams come true. While you're still having fun at level 28, don't stop laughing at the answers and shuddering at the thought of the next wave. But be careful, 15 coins have a short life, especially do not fall into curiosity. On the other hand, if you're into the modern stuff, you'll have to get middle-aged to get a complete testosterone system. And that was 14 out of 20, David.
You'll have to get middle-aged to get a complete testosterone system? Isn't that the opposite of how it works?
Yeah, a little weird. I don't think that's quite how that works, JoJo Video. I don't think everybody hits middle age and then just gets blasted with testosterone.
It's once you hit 40, the doctor calls you up. He's like, "All right, it's your turn to get in the laser pit." They just hit you with the T laser.
All right, dude, you got to start lifting fucking weights because you got to get big.
It's time to get big and beefy, bud. I hope you liked body hair before because, boy,
you about to get some more. David, what is this game?
This game is a downloadable content, extra missions for, not even extra missions, but a riff, I would say, on Far Cry 3. So it is a open world first person shooter. You take the role of Rex Power Colt. a cyber soldier. So this game is thematically really has nothing to do with Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is very visceral and it tries to be grounded in a lot of ways. This game is over the top and ridiculous, and it's in a futuristic world that has been nuked to all hell, and the soldiers are now all cyber soldiers who have essentially been risen from the dead and are just superhumans. So yeah, this game is wild. The main gameplay loop is, like with most Far Cries, even today, is capture the outpost in any number of ways to your liking, gain more control of the map, and go through the different missions throughout the map. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's significantly smaller than I think really any other Far Cry game. If we're jumping into things I like that it is a lot smaller, David. I enjoy that too. Open world games get so overwhelming so fast nowadays that having it be a little bit more concentrated is quite nice, actually. Just
13 outposts. That's all you get in this one, that's enough.
It's still a lot.
It is a lot. By the time I was done, I was like, okay, great. I'm finished with that. I didn't just mainline the story, but I feel like if you did that, you could beat this game pretty quick.
I mostly did that, and I was done in 3 or 4 hours, I think.
Yeah, I think I did all the outposts and then did the rest of the story, and I think I clocked in at 6 or 7. So
sounds about right.
Not a long game.
No.
But I like that. I like that I can just play this game and be finished in a little while. Let's see. This is such a weird game to talk about.
It's all over the place. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah. There's a few things that I have to say up front that I are unignorable, I feel like.
Yes.
Humor plays a big part in this game. And I would say a lot of it doesn't land in 2023.
Yes.
Some of that is my personal choice in humor, right? Some of the things I just didn't laugh at. And that's fine. That's fine to not laugh at a thing. Some of it's hurtful and unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know, there's a gay joke almost immediately in the game.
Yeah. Straight right off the bat.
It's I think Colt is talking to his partner and his he's Spider, who's amazing. But Spider starts the saying of men fear me or something like that.
Yeah.
And Colt responds back with, and you want to be with men. It's just so trite and unnecessary. And there's a bit of that in here. That just feels God, it feels very 2013, just we're shooting from the hip, man. Fuck it.
I think they are trying to be a little tongue in cheek about it.
Definitely.
Right? But it just doesn't always land as being tongue in cheek, trying to be, satirize that type of character.
Yeah. I think in this era, and it took a second to kind of come out of this, but I feel a lot of humor of the era was wrapped in irony. And I think irony oftentimes requires assumptions about the party who's making the joke, right? There's a lot of irony that is wrapped in I'm one of the good guys, right? All these jokes are in good fun, but I'm not bad or anything.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of mask off moments since then where like, oh no, the people who were making those jokes, some of them were actual dickheads. And so it's kind of hard to like
ignore that,
distinguish between those two. So, you know, there's better jokes. And I will say some of them do land. The one where Colt is offered like essentially the drugs that the main bad guy is taking to make him a better soldier.
the dragon blood.
Yes, the dragon blood. Colt responds with, no, I promised a special woman that I wouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And the scientist is like, who, your wife? And he's like, no, I made a promise to Lady Liberty.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't do drugs. And there's like American flag that shows up in the Statue of Liberty next to it.
That part was really good.
That's funny. That's very good. Kind of poking fun at this like hyper masculine patriotic version of a man that showed up in like these 80s movies. Mm-hmm. Good. Very great. Like whenever they hit on that tone, I think it's really, really great.
Yeah.
So, like some of the other stuff with like one of the achievements in the game is named Derp. Very 2013
Derp.
humor. Yeah, exactly. Like
I didn't see that. What do you have to do to get Derp?
I don't even remember. It like popped up on my screen. I was like, Jesus, dude. Not something that is egregious, but just like, wow, yeah, this did come out in 2013, didn't it?
Yeah. It's also his obsession with ninjas, or stating that ninjas are super cool. And you get to do something that's like a ninja. So obviously that's awesome and something that you want to be doing.
Of course, yeah. Everybody loves ninjas.
Need some shurikens like a ninja. Let's do it.
Which I know is kind of a throwback to the 80s unto itself. But still feels very, very strange in the modern moment. Mm-hmm. I think like the game is asking you to just like turn your brain off a little bit. And
absolutely.
If you can do that, there's enjoyable stuff in here.
Yeah. One other thing that I think I have to mention as something that did not land well: the sex scene. Where
oh my god, dude!
She's saying yes, yes, and then no, 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 and it ends with her saying no.
I know. I also just was like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, what is going? I don't even see the joke there. Personally, I was very confused.
I think it was trying to make fun that he's like a robot man, and so like he doesn't know how to do sex right. But yeah, it definitely read as bad, like, right?
Nowadays, it was
sucks.
It was gnarly.
Yeah, no,
it was gnarly.
Yeah, that which it helps at the very next scene. She's like, I didn't know people like robots could be that gentle. I'm like, okay,
yeah. It
close
comes
save,
around,
but like,
quickly. But at the same time, like in the moment, like,
That fade to black, I was definitely like, holy shit, man, is that what we're about to do here?
Anyways.
So it was. I agree that like you do have to kind of put that stuff up front.
Yeah, that was not good
for sure. I will say that like so you're talking about the cutscenes a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
I do really appreciate the way the cutscenes shown in this game.
I like them too. Yeah.
Yeah, like they look like the intro of a Super Nintendo or a Nintendo game, right? Like the aspect ratio is super tiny. You just get a little bit
in the middle of the screen. Yeah.
Which I think is great. Like, I think one of the bigger things about this game that I really appreciate is that it is taking aesthetics of the games and like very much like the 80s look, but they are adapting it in a way that is novel, right? I think they could have just done like a surface level take of an 80s idea or an 80s aesthetic, something closer to like Vice City, right? Where like it is rooted in that era. But I think that the game is adapting the vibe that those 8-bit games had and then putting that into 3D.
Yeah,
which I think is really neat. Like we were talking about Yooka-Laylee last week and how it very much just takes the idea of Banjo-Kazooie and does that again. Whereas I think this game is riffing on what a 8-bit video game in 3D would look like, which I really love. I don't know that I've seen a game like that before, right? Like maybe something like Super Hot or something like that.
Sure.
But you kind of get it in Hotline Miami, but I think Hotline Miami is more intended to be kind of visually like an old school game.
Sure. No, I see what you're saying.
Which is cool. I thought that was really interesting and in kind of stark contrast to what we were looking at last week.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting that you say that because I totally see what you're saying in that it's trying to take that aesthetic and create it in a modern environment. But at the same time, I think the gameplay felt very modern to me. It almost felt like I was playing Doom because the game really encourages you to just go guns blazing. I think going in line with the character, right? Just this super hyper macho cyber soldier, right? And it felt like if I stopped moving, I was going to die. So it just felt like I was going around at a breakneck pace, just shooting people. I'm like, hey, they've kind of stumbled upon like the early bones of Doom and Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see that had been being tapped into. And I didn't expect that from a Far Cry DLC. Like I didn't expect pretty much any of this from a Far Cry DLC because I think the mainline games are, at least they were, really trying to kind of root themselves in reality.
A little bit,
especially like 1 through 3. 4 to a degree, and then it's gotten a little less so.
It's a little wild in those other ones.
Like, yeah, there's always a little bit of an element of the supernatural, but it tries to give that viscerality of real life in the games. So yeah, I thought that was it was an interesting change in the gameplay as well, because I think that when I play a regular Far Cry game, I'm sneaky boy to the max. Whereas this one, I'm just going in guns blazing. There's no fall damage, so I'm just going to jump from wherever the hell I want. So let's do this.
Yeah, it's totally true. It seemed like they were almost on the Doom thing, where they give you hyper speed. Like, you can run really fast in this game.
You can run really fast. You can swim like a motherfucker.
Yes. Yeah. No, your swimming ability is quite wild.
Yeah.
You also start the game being able to breathe underwater, which I really appreciate.
You start fully loaded, essentially.
Yes.
You have all of your weapons besides the bow at first.
Which is amazing.
The bow and the flamethrower, I think.
And I think by taking out some of the like quasi seriousness that the base game had, you're right, it does get closer to Doom, where Doom is like so intentionally like, listen, dude, there is a story here, but like, just shoot demons. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, the mechanics of this are the thing that you are here for. And I think, this game is getting closer to that.
Yeah.
Which is, it's neat. I was so surprised that they were doing a tutorial in the beginning of the game in like the most basic way.
Mocking tutorial.
Yes. Also, Colt is talking shit on the tutorial, which is, it's very 2013 to be like, we know it sucks. Our main character is going to talk about it, but then we're also definitely going to make you do the tutorial.
Yeah.
Like,
here it still is.
No one had seen the fact that Dark Souls gave you nothing yet, and it was like a huge hit. Obviously, those games had like been out for a second, but like, it wasn't the critical mass yet where they're just like, we can assume people know how to press A to jump, right? Like, maybe they don't, but I think forcing you to play the tutorial where you have to look around as a thing, like, it's fine. Yeah. We get it. Everybody's like well versed enough to know that is part of a video game, which was something.
That was something. Yeah, that was one of the things that it really set the table for the tone of the humor for the rest of the game. It's just like, okay, yeah, I know you're making fun of this, but I'm still having to kind of wade through it.
Yeah.
So I think you're poking fun at me now, which is kind of annoying, but
it's weird. I was trying to think about this. I think at the time that the game is saying that Colt is like kind of a dipshit, but I feel that a little less. Playing it now.
Yeah.
Like they put you in the position where like, yeah, Colt's clearly like dumb, right? Like he's just like this crazy super soldier, but like they also put you in the position of being heroic, and the scientists are total fucking dweebs and like
save the nerds.
Exactly. Like,
which is the name of missions in this game.
Yes. Which like is kind of funny, but also like it I think they are in one hand saying that Colt is a dipshit, but also like he's fucking cool, dude. He's rad. He's radical. He's gonna get shit done.
He's got attitude.
So I feel like they kind of can't have it both ways in a little bit. Do you feel like the game was coming down on that on one end or another at all? Like, do you think the game thinks that Colt is actually fucking sick?
I think the game is recognizing that Colt is definitely someone who should be made fun of, and is totally oblivious to other people making fun of him.
Yeah,
because of the fact that he objectively is good at what he does.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. He is the self-aware badass who is not self-aware enough to realize that he is almost satirizing himself, or he is satirizing himself in many ways. So I mean, he does save the day, but I mean, Himbo's got to have a job too, right?
I think with my interpretation of himbos, usually that was a sentence. I feel like typically they're supposed to be a little bit nicer than Colt is. Not that I need every main character to be nice. In fact, that would be quite boring.
Sure.
But like, I think I was just like chewing on if the game was okay with Colt being kind of a dick, that they're kind of saying like, that's fine. Again, I think so much of this is just filtered through the lens of like a bunch of unself-aware dipshits that have come to power since 2013, that like it rings a little less fun since then, you know?
I might come on the side of the game not being okay with him being a dick.
Yeah.
I think they're okay with his actions of like saving the day, but I don't think they're okay with him being a dick, because that's really what they make fun of the whole time. Sure. This guy's a fucking asshole, really.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Speaking of which, Michael Biehn, the guy who's like voicing Colt, just putting on a clinic for being like a dipshit.
Yeah.
As far as a voice actor goes, like doing a really good job there.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
He was in Aliens as Dwayne Hicks, which if you've seen that, you'll recognize what's going on there. Just a big Marine head empty bro, which is very cool.
Sure.
But he's been in like a bunch of movies. He was in The Rock, Navy SEALs in 1990. So I think dude just has the voice for it. Not to mention, it's such a bummer that Spider is killed so early in the video game because
ridiculous character.
Phil Lamar is the voice of Spider, and it's just, again, amazing. I wanted Spider in every scene.
Your whole soul, brother.
Yeah, amazing.
So ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. It's odd playing a game like this that is so rooted in a different decade and then playing that game in a different decade.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I feel like you really see the beliefs of 2013 in this game. Like it's a very 80s video game, but you see a lot of the stuff that was of that era in this game too.
It's a 2013 interpretation and critique of the 80s.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's interesting playing it in 2023, a decade later.
For sure. Yeah. I just like total sidebar. The ending of the game was very fun.
Oh yeah. I loved getting on the dragon at the end.
Yeah, you like ride a blood dragon at some point. It's amazing.
Blood dragons are essentially giant radioactive Komodo dragons from Far Cry 3.
Yeah.
And they go around and they like just fuck things up immediately. They have laser beams from their mouths.
Yeah. Whenever you beat a super soldier, you can like rip out their blue robo heart.
Yeah.
And then if you throw that near one of the blood dragons, it'll like attract it to that area. So you can kind of like use them to fight the bad guys if you want to.
So yeah, you've been running away from these things pretty much the whole game. And then at the end, you get to ride one that has a like turret on top of its head and you just mow people down. And the very end of the game, it's like the rockets are going off into the air that the evil general is trying to spread the blood dragon goo to the rest of the world. And you have to shoot them down. And it's like a 4th of July fireworks display. It's pretty ridiculous.
The way that you get to that part of the level too, you like just got this like wild power where you can essentially shoot a laser beam from your arm. Very fun. Like
the laser beam was great.
The game is essentially just saying like, all right, fuck it. We're going to give you the coolest gun in the game and let you like beat up a bunch of people.
Yeah, we made you do something kind of hard to get it because that challenge was difficult in some parts where you had to you had to go through a gauntlet and just like essentially prove your proficiency with each weapon.
Yeah.
And then at the end you get this, it's a shuriken, once again, going back to the ninjas thing. And it just shoots, laser beam from your arm.
It's very, very fun. The leveling system here I like quite a bit where there's no skill tree. There's just...
No, it just
every
tells
now
you
and
what
then
happens.
Level up. Here is the thing that you get at level 15. Which is really fun.
I'm totally okay with that.
Me too. I think the thing that I'm coming away with in addition to the visual style is how that like simplification in this way is not a bad thing. And I think oftentimes in this kind of game is a good thing. I feel like for so long we were like, as the games industry is moving along, the ideology of bigger is better was true for so long, or maybe not true, but believed in at the very least. And I think you see that reaching its conclusion with a lot of the games around 2017 that were just like big bloated Ubisoft games.
Yeah.
And then the response to that being Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring and now Tears of the Kingdom that are the opposite direction, right? That it is still an open world game, but you are given so little. It is so sparse with what the game gives you initially. And I think I don't think that the size of Breath of the Wild is the thing that makes it incredible, but rather the carefulness with which it's designed and how you are given all of that and how it pulls on your curiosity. But I think that there is still a version of this game that works, this kind of like Far Cry game. And I do think it is this. I think small is good with this kind of game because, God, I get burnt out on these games if they're upwards like 50 to 60 hours. Unless you have like a really, really compelling story, like I don't feel the need to play it that much.
I just get burnt out on the number of choices I have to make. It's choice paralysis. It's like going down the shopping aisle at the grocery store and there's like 50 different types of cereal you can choose from. Yeah. You know, it's not, more isn't always better, I guess is what it comes down to, right? You can, because I mean, you're free to do and like go anywhere you want in the world and like tackle these outposts in whatever way you want, but they streamlined it in certain areas to just not bog you down from what really is the entertaining part of the game, which is the gameplay itself and just doing these crazy things. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, now I can do something more insane than before because I just leveled up twice from doing this outpost. So then you get to just explore that. And it makes it so much more smooth.
Yeah.
Because it takes out that moment of, oh, do I want to go attack? Do I want to go defense? Do I go agility? Like if I don't like this, what's going to happen? Can I respec? And you just start going down this rabbit hole of just like, what if? And it just takes all that out. And, for someone who doesn't have as much time to play games as he used to, that's really nice. Especially, if it's done right, sure, of course, right?
Yeah.
But it's nice to not have to think as much about those finer minutia of the game and just enjoy the experience.
Yeah, it like unless that is the game, I kind of don't want to have to fuck with it, Yeah. Like there are games where that's fun. I think like in an RPG game where it is very focused on like how do I best like get through these encounters and like tuning and tweaking my party. That's fun, right? That can be a draw of a game unto itself. Chained Echoes does that, right? I think you see a little bit in like Octopath Traveler 2.
Like a Deus Ex, like one of those
Deus Ex, yeah, totally.
Those sim games that you like to play, right?
Yeah, the immersive sims. Yep, where there's like meaningful change, and that is usually your way through the game. Whereas like I don't need the skill tree that gives me plus 3% damage. Like it's fine. You can take that away. I like you were saying, I think the point of these Far Cry games is like, go have fun out here and like fight this world in the way that you want to.
Yeah.
And when it lets you do that, it's very good. And also when it is fairly short, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I could have played this game for 40 hours, but I could definitely play it for 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
All I did was run from outpost to outpost. And like when you finish one, you're usually pretty close to another one. So
yeah, it's just right over the hill.
Sprint over there. Yeah.
You just sprint over there like a madman and just start killing folks.
Yeah. Which is fun. It's good. I think this game it gets out of your way very often.
Yeah.
Cutscenes aren't super long. You don't really have to fuck with like any abilities. The map isn't very big. And there's not that much you have to track on it. I got worried for a second because a lot of the Far Cry games, something that you have to manage is that you have to go like kill certain amounts of like animals to get their skins to up your inventory space, which I always want to do because more inventory space is always good.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's hard to do that. And it just kind of turns into this like chore that I have to do rather than like a fun thing. Yeah. And I saw the animals like on the map for a second. I was like, oh God. But then it's just
a lot of animal markers on the map.
There are, but it's just like that's what's over there. It's fine, which was cool. I wish that people or like bigger companies would take more swings with this kind of stuff.
Sure,
especially the like very big AAA companies, because this is great. This is really good. Experiment with these tiny games, man.
So what you're saying is that Nintendo needs to release an 80s themed Legend of Zelda with a very small map.
Oh my God. If they say they were like, hey, we're remaking the original one. We're just going to use the Breath of the Wild engine. It's not very big. You can finish this game in like 10 to 20 hours. I'm in. I'm fully in. And they have like the kind of like 80s retro style for that. Oh my God, David.
Instead of Epona, you have a light cycle.
It's just Tron. Jump scare Jeff Bridges comes out. Be like, all right, I'm going to tell you about your mission.
Is that how Jeff Bridges sounds?
Probably not. In my stupor of video games, I fired up Dream Drop Distance the other day, and I forgot to save, and so I had to play the Tron level again.
Oh no!
And Jeff Bridges sure is in there.
If only Guy Fieri was in that one. Yeah, it's the perfect one for him to be in.
Oh my God,
Triple D.
Can you imagine if instead it was Guy that got sucked into Tron?
Guy Fieri doing a Jeff Bridges impersonation.
Oh my God, another thing I would love to see. Dude, I'm stuck on your Zelda idea. That sounds amazing.
I mean, it's just a very fun concept for a DLC. Yeah. It's just, here is the base game. We're just going to put a weird 80s, it's just like, what am I trying to say? Filter. An 80s filter over everything. Because it's the same assets that they had for Far Cry 3. Like when you're just driving around the island, just like, oh, if this was sunny and beautiful out, it would be Far Cry 3 again, right?
Yeah.
And just make it totally different. There's no fall damage. You're gonna be supercharged. You're gonna get a full inventory of weapons at the beginning and just do something crazy. I think that's just a very different and fun way of making a DLC. It doesn't always have to be a continuation of the story. It doesn't always have to be something very serious. It can just be something wacky, right?
Yeah, the game feels very playful in the ideology that it's built with.
Yeah. wacky and small, and just like a different story, just something, a riff on yourself, just for a second.
Yeah,
fun.
Please. It's fun. It's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else to say about this game?
I want to know what your favorite joke in the game was, Chase.
It was the Lady Liberty one.
That one was really good.
Easily. That like, I genuinely was like, okay, guys, you got me. That was like, up to that point, I was like, I don't think that this game is very funny. And then that one alone was like, yeah, I'm in.
I really liked the one where you're invading that dam to blow it up, and then the AI comes over the intercom and says something to the effect of, announcing it to the soldiers in the dam, saying, you just remember, if you don't say grenade out, when you throw your grenade, it won't explode. And then you just hear a bunch of explosions everywhere.
Oh my God, I didn't hear that.
And then it comes back over the intercom and it's like, sorry that I said that earlier. I know it probably killed and maimed a couple of you. But then also, you could also have the other phrase of eat this and more explosions afterwards. Yeah. Just like, damn, that was pretty good. I love that.
Again, I think when the humor is like poking fun at video games like that.
Yeah, that was
very
really
good.
That was really good.
Very, very funny. I liked that when you planted the mines in that level too, they didn't work. Like they didn't blow up the dam.
They did nothing.
Yeah.
The C4000 was a bust.
They like tried to it just like spewed smoke out, and then you had to go figure out another way to do it. It was good. I liked that part. Yeah, I agree with all the things you said. Some problematic bits in there. Shooting feels good, and I appreciate how small this game is.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed this game. It felt like if Far Cry was made by the Lonely Island.
Yeah, a little bit. That is pretty specific and true, David.
It was good. Enjoyable.
Yeah.
Problematic in some places.
Yeah.
The humor didn't land in some places.
Yeah.
But when it was hitting, it was riffing pretty good.
I enjoyed, like, as much as I do kind of enjoy the cutscenes and stuff, like when I was just head empty, go capture some places, I'm like, yeah, dude, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm playing this video game. Well, sweet. Thanks, Karlf, for your suggestion here. Appreciate you. Yeah. Game fun.
Game fun.
Hello, gamers. If you want to connect with us on the internet, you can check out podtimism.com. It's got a link to a Twitter. It's got a link to our email, and you can tell us how your name is pronounced, like Karlf did. Although he said that that's a pseudonym. It's a nickname. It's not his true name.
Everyone send us your nicknames.
I'll put a poll on Spotify, and you can drop your nickname in there. But yeah, you can go check out our socials if you want to get in contact with us. If you want to suggest a game, that's also the place to do it. So yeah, feel free. I love getting suggested games. It always makes the next few minutes after I get a suggestion, like I'm just frantically Wikipediaing what that video game was if I haven't played it. It's always very fun. It's always there's so much potential with a video game. It's great. I love getting suggestions, and we will play them. You can also check out our backlog, see if we've played a game that you like, and you want to go check out what episode that's in. You can see that there, and you can see our album art all in one place if you'd like. If you want to help the show, there's a few things you can do. One is review it on a podcast outlet, an Apple Podcast or a Spotify. It helps the algorithm to show other Podtimists. Podtimists in wait, unknown Podtimists who would be Podtimists, but they aren't
Podtimists in waiting for the time to be courted.
You can also tell a friend about the pod, or if somebody says, hey, I need a new podcast suggestion. Couple of thank yous right here. One, thank you, Scout Wilkinson, for your work on our art for our podcast. It's very good. If you want to check out her stuff, you can do that at ko-fi.com/humblegoat. She's a great artist, and you should hire her to do work for you. And also, thank you, listener, for being here and hanging out with us. You don't have to, believe it or not. This isn't required by law, unless you live in the state of Podtimism, the fascist state of Podtimism, in which it is required by law to listen to this podcast.
What's the punishment if you don't listen?
We're going to ask you nicely again. We're not, honestly, not very good at being fascists, but
are you saying that we're anti-fascists, Chase?
Wink.
Big Antifa with their podcasts out here,
spreading good vibes. Yeah, you don't have to listen to this podcast, but you do. So thank you for being here and hanging out with us. We deeply appreciate your simple listenership. If so, yeah, thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Gaming, it's a great time.
David, do you have any gaming wisdom for us this week?
Yeah, I do. Okay. You can like things and you can love things, and that's awesome. but
Yeah.
don't make one thing your whole personality.
Yeah.
We are multifaceted creatures, and you don't always have to just love America and that's it. Like Rex Power
Yeah.
Cult. You can have other interests. Maybe, I don't know.
Video games.
Video games. A nice game of pool. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you like to bake. Get on that Great British Baking Championship, or not championship.
A useful
Great British Baking Show.
Great British Baking
I just
Show.
made it more American.
a useful thing, you know? Baking bread is very helpful for me.
Exactly. Something that gives to others, and not just sometimes takes, like a country does.
Patriotism.
Yeah. Anyways,
Or do something for you.
or do something for you. Do some self searching, some self betterment. You know.
Yeah, and you know, broaden your horizons. Read a book.
Exactly.
Books are cool.
Yeah, books are great. Good for your brain.
Good for your brain. See a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the Mario movie.
Ooh, it's good.
It felt a little bit like emotional warfare.
Emotional warfare.
Yeah, they got all my friends and they're playing the music that I like, and like, what am I supposed to do in this situation?
Give them your money.
I know, I did. And it just felt like they knew the reaction that I was going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like tailor-made to make me cheer and go, Mario, yay.
I mean, I would argue that we are like the target audience.
I know, yeah. Actually, I sort of disagree with that. I feel like this was a kid's movie, to be honest. More so than like a lot of other like Pixar films, or like Puss in Boots or Spider-Verse or something like that. But like the pace of it specifically felt like a children's movie, where they're just like, dude, we don't have time for downtime. You're not going to get that in this movie.
If there is something emotional going on screen, the kid is going to be up and out, and the parent's going to be like, what the heck?
What
Entertain my child.
It was good, though.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Charlie Day was fucking crushing it.
He crushed
as
it.
Luigi.
I love Charlie Day.
He's really great. His voice really worked for Luigi.
It did. Once they said that it was Charlie Day for Luigi, I'm just like, all he has to do is just Charlie from It's Always Sunny, but just a nicer version of him.
A little higher.
And a little higher. That's it.
You can do that and better yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could play a video game. That's also good.
There's lots of good ones out there.
Play That Which Gave Chase. It's a good horror game.
Mm-hmm.
You will feel something when you play it.
Hey, play a demo for a game that came out 10 years ago.
Unbeknownst to you.
I had no idea. It seems so silly to have a demo for a game that's 10 years old. But hey, I played it.
Play a demo for Blasto, you cowards.
For Toomba.
Play the demo for Toomba. I did play the demo for Toomba.
I played a lot of the Toomba demo. I never played Toomba. I never played the game, but I played the demo a lot.
We should play Toomba. Why don't we play Toomba?
I'm down.
Hey, next week, it's Toomba.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. If you're at the end of the episode, that's a little treat for you and us.
Yeah, sneak preview.
It's Toomba time.
Is that their motto? Is that their catchphrase?
That's ours now. I'm going to replace every bit of our podcast with It's Toomba time.
It's Toomba time.
See you next week, Toombas.
See you, Toombies.
Bye.